Hi, my name is Cameron Harmon. I'm a retired ceramic engineer. And as a retired guy, I find that I'm in very good health, very strong, wanting to do some work, and wanting to help. I realized that one of the best things that I could do is take all that knowledge that I've picked up over the last 50 years and turn them into useful information for potters. It's a way of giving back to the industry. So I tell you what I've done. I have put together a ceramic course for non-technical people like potters. And I'll give you an idea. Way back when I first started, back in the early 60s, my father and I went into business together as consultants. And during that period of time, we helped a number of people with some of their problems. And in addition, I started learning how to build kilns. Although I had built kilns before that, now I was in the regular business of doing so. And I continued building kilns for people, well, up until a couple of years ago, actually. The kilns that I built, I'm proud to say, were exceptionally good kilns. I never built a kiln that didn't work, and every kiln was a very precise firing device. Now, many potters don't need a very precise kiln, I understand that. But the physics involved don't change, they're the same. Well, anyway, what's important here is that I also, during this period of time, started and ran my own pottery. In addition to that, I have been in potters locations all over the world, except the continent of Africa. So I have seen how people make pottery. I've seen the problems that they have with it. And I have met and talked with both suppliers and engineers in almost every country. There are very few problems that I have not seen or experienced. Now, I'm not an artist and I'm not a teacher of techniques. In other words, I can't tell somebody the best way to use a potter's wheel to form a nice shape. That's not what I do. But I can tell you the basic fundamentals of ceramics that apply to our everyday business. You and I both know that many of the potters are really artists, and that's where their heart is, and that's where their hands are. Some are very good practitioners in that they can make their hands do things that just are unimaginable to me. But on the other hand, they're not engineers. They don't intend to be, nor should they be. However, I've developed what you might call a course in ceramic technology for non-technical people, in which I discuss in plain language some of the fundamentals of ceramics. And these fundamentals can be applied to all kinds of situations once you know what they are. But I don't just shove it down in one big ugly trip. I do it over a month at a time. The advantage of that is that when customers write into us and say, hey, we got a problem, we're able to address that problem right away. We don't have to have a fixed schedule for what comes out. So I've developed a newsletter called Ceramic Solutions. that's issued once each month. And it's issued sequentially. So whenever anybody decides to join with our course, they get issue number one always. It doesn't start in the middle somewhere. We take surveys to understand what people want, what they're looking for, so that we can put that into our system. I use not just my information, but I use people that have been in the industry for quite a while and understand the problems that potters face and have much more expertise than I do, either with a particular method of making or with other parts of ceramics. So the explanations that you get are quite accurate and still relatively simple. Let me give you an idea. Here's a real example from a real case. When my dad and I first started our consulting business way back in the 60s, we had a customer called us and said, hey, I've got a real serious problem here. He said, I'm making a new product, and our product line has to expand. If we don't expand our product line, our old product line is dying to the point as we'll go out of business. But on the other hand, in order to make this product, we can't change our ceramic body mix because that'll throw everything in the factory off. It'll make it very difficult for us to match it with the other products that we're making because it's a commercial product that parts of sets and people buy different pieces at different times. Now he was ram pressing two particular parts that had a lot of shape to them, but they were cracking when they came off the dies. Well, the first thought as an engineer is, well, we'll just adjust the body mix a little bit and make it more plastic. But we couldn't do that in this case because he wanted the body to fire and shrink exactly the same way as the rest of his products. But we knew from fundamentals that his problem was very simple. When you're ram pressing, you do have to have a body that is plastic enough to move through these odd shapes that are being pressed into it without creating a lot of stress. So we needed to increase the plasticity of his body. So we added an organic plasticizer. You only need to add 1/10% or 0.2% at the most in order to do the trick. We did that and it worked fine. So his losses disappeared. That saved his company, essentially. Now you see that it was just one simple application of the understanding of engineering enabled us to solve that problem pretty quick. Had he had someone on his staff that knew a little bit more about the fundamentals, he would have been able to solve it himself. We were happy to help him, however. I can give you another example. Another person, again, ram pressing, but this time a 12 by 12 tile that was a bas-relief shape so that the thickness of the tile, the individual tile, varied from less than 1/2 inch to a little less than 2 inches. Now, as many of you know, that is a disaster waiting to happen. When you have that much change in thickness, you get all kinds of drying problems and the pieces crack up. Well, that's what he had. He lost 80% of what he pressed. Well, we know that the fundamental of drying, which we talk about, is very simple. You have to dry any piece that you make evenly on all sides. And you have to dry it very slowly in the beginning. Because the way ceramics work is the clay attaches itself to the water molecules. When there's a little bit of water attached to it, such as in dry pressing, you don't really get any shrinkage. But when there's more water, which you would get if you're throwing a piece or if you're ram pressing a piece. The very wet piece will shrink quite a bit. Once it gets leather hard or a little drier, it'll stop shrinking, and then you can dry it pretty fast without any trouble. So all I had to do was devise a way for the drying to take place a little more slowly. Well, in his case, we were using offices as a dryer. We used 3 different offices. In the first office, we put a low-speed fan in there to give circulation. We allowed very little air to escape so that the relative humidity in the room would go up so that the drying would take place quite slowly. And make sure that the bottom of the tile and the top of the tile were both exposed to the air. Now you have to set the tile on something, we understand that, but it doesn't have to always be set on something solid. We let the initial drying take place and the initial shrinkage take place very slowly in that room. Then in his case, after a day, we would take the bakery racks holding his tiles out of that room and put them in the room next door. Now in the room next door, the fan would suck in a little bit of outside air, and we let openings in the room take that humid air and blow it out, and let the heater warm the room up a little bit. So now it's going to dry a little bit faster. But again, careful to make it not too fast until the shrinkage quit. Once the shrinkage quit on the pieces, which in his case was another day, we rolled the tile out of there, put it into the third room, which we ran with more air in and more openings for the air to leave, and ran the temperature higher to finish the drying off. He went from 80% losses to way less than 20% losses. The idea was we just followed simple fundamentals. You can think of things to do, like using offices for drying rooms, once you know what your goal is. So what we're trying to do with Ceramic Solutions newsletter is teach everybody these fundamentals so they get them in their mind and so they can think about them. Now, I just gave you 2 examples, but there are hundreds more. You've run into a lot of situations yourself. You know that cracking is a big problem. Glaze crazing and shivering is a problem. There are all kinds of problems, but they can be solved or even avoided in the first place through the use of the understanding of ceramic fundamentals. Now, what I just described to you was not highly technical, even though the basis of it might be. You didn't need to know that. All you needed to know was enough to work out the problem. Now, I'm communicating with you in order to give you an idea of what's out there that could help your guild members. If you'd like a free sample of issue number 1, just to see what's in there, the email that accompanies this video will have a URL. Click on that and it'll take you to the website that we use, and follow the boxes, click on it, and you will receive your own free copy that you can study. We hope that you will refer your guild members to that same site so they can get their own copies of it. And then later, if they appreciate what they're seeing, then they can go to a different location on the website and become a subscriber to this course. Thank very much for paying attention to me today, and I hope you get great success in the future.